All right. So this is one of my favorite parts of today's webinar. So if you are applying to art school, you know that you have to have your portfolio on point. So I am so excited to take the next 15 minutes or so to have a one-on-one conversation with the amazing Professor Aubrey Mintz, who is the Director of School of Arts at California State University, Long Beach. So welcome to the webinar, Mr. Professor Mintz.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, such a pleasure to have you here today. So, we have tons of questions, right? Everyone is super nervous about how do I put my best foot forward when it comes to my student portfolio. So, we've pulled together some of the most common and most pressing questions that students have about their portfolio, and we would love to hear your expertise about it. So, we're just going to jump right in. When it comes to building your portfolio and submitting that as a potential candidate for a school, how many pieces should actually be in your portfolio?
I usually suggest, around 15 to 20, maybe as little as 10, but it's usually on average about, 15 to 20, I'd say.
Wow. Okay, that seems like a lot. And then,
Well,
so,
it's like hopefully students are drawing a lot, so they'll hopefully have a lot of options to choose from their personal work and their assignments maybe that they do at school. But the portfolio is typically a more focused version of the selection that they have.
perfect. So if you're thinking that 10 to 20 is the good amount of pieces to have in your portfolio, do you just focus on one style or should there be multiple styles in your portfolio?
It really depends what you're applying for, if it's in what types of a program you're applying for, like a lot of I work in animation and I've taught in animation for 20 years. And typically in animation, we like to see a variety of skills on one hand, and then on the other hand, we like to see a little bit of a focus. So sometimes um, students are focused on actual animation, meaning characters moving. So of course, if that's their interest, we want to see a little bit more of that. But sometimes students want to focus more on the pre-production side, say character design or background painting. So we want to see a little bit more focus towards how you draw either the figure, a character, or how you draw environments. Um, um, but in terms of style, style is something that people will develop over time. Um, and what I always recommend for students to do is actually learn several styles if they can. And that would mean kind of referencing anything from anime to Disney animation to more stylized animation. And it goes past animation, of course, as you're starting to think if you're a painter, can you be influenced by, Renaissance artists versus different culture artists versus different time periods? Um, and that goes from drawing to painting to sculpture across the board, really. So I don't actually recommend people to grab onto a style as opposed to learning and being influenced by several styles. This question came up the other day. If students have, say, fan art that they've been developing,
Mhm.
and it's the same goes for if you're referencing different styles, like you're drawing a lot of anime, you're drawing a lot of, Disney art. It's great for your own learning, and it's great to um, understand what makes that style. But in a portfolio, you don't necessarily want to show drawings you've done from other artists. Basically, you want to basically take in that information and distill it down to its properties, like what, you know in anime usually we look at really strong poses versus, say, Michelangelo, you might be looking at the anatomy, or you might be looking at the lighting, and really just focus on what those artists do, and then allow that to inform your own design or your own style.
Perfect. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I know there's a lot of students out there who love like anime and manga. So it's really just taking the key elements of that and interpreting it in your own way and putting that piece into your portfolio versus just oh, I'm just whatever the most popular thing is, I'm going to sketch that and send it. Okay, that's
Exactly.
fantastic.
And, we want to know, we want to know how you think, and it's like, if you are attracted to anime, what is it that attracts you to it? Is it the shot selection? Like, if you really enjoy cinematography, maybe you stop on a few frames and kind of draw the frames and really understand the spacing between the characters, the horizon line, or are you attracted to kind of the posing in the anime? Like, and sometimes it can be limited. Like, if you think about anime, since we're talking about it, often the posing is very strong, the silhouettes, but the expressions are always a little bit more general. Whereas you look at, say, older Disney animation or even newer Disney animation or Pixar stuff, they really do a deep dive into the expressions and what are the eyes doing, and what's the emotion coming forward. So that's the kind of stuff you want to get a wide variety of, so you can develop your own.
Wonderful. I know we're recording this webinar, but I hope everybody is taking notes because you are dropping gems today. So thank you so much for that. I know another popular question is, do I have to know Photoshop? And is traditional okay?
Well, again, it depends what you're going for. Some, college programs like you to have more knowledge in technology, but some will kind of offer that for you there, and they don't feel that that's important. Um, I like to say, do as much as you can and learn as much as you can, and you have to put your best foot forward. Technology is one of those things that continually changes, as many of you know. So you may learn one program one year, and then it kind of phases out, and a new program is available. So it's really like the concepts of technology. If you kind of understand the basic ideas behind certain softwares, um, they can be applicable to others. So it's not really like, do I need to know Photoshop, but it's like, do I need to understand how to digitally draw? Do I need to understand layers and how to open and close files, naming files? Like that horrible mistake we all do, where you name a file and you write final, 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 final. I really
Oh,
mean it this
yeah,
time.
I've
Like,
done that.
so. So, like, basic things like that, probably a lot of high school students know. Um, but in terms of drawing, that's something that you can never get too much of, and your foundational skills are hugely important across the board. So I would rather students spend time doing actual drawing than learning software. So figure drawing, quick sketch drawing, environmental drawing. Just go outside with a sketchbook, draw trees or houses, anything that's around you, draw people. Um, Drawing, painting, sculpture, getting your feet wet in as many medium as possible. That way, really, it's not just for your portfolio, but for yourself as an artist. That way, you can see where your strengths are. Especially when you're in high school, you may be attracted to one way of doing something, but if you don't try something else, you won't know. So it's kind of playing and enjoying, experimenting. It's okay to fail. Like, I know the teachers are probably freaking out when I say that, because I don't mean failing in your classes, but I mean trying out. Let's say you've never done sculpture before. Grab some clay and start building. Like, if you are traditionally drawing characters, maybe you can sculpt them as well, and then you might find a whole new skill, and that may lead to new either avenues of education or new jobs in the future, because we have, again, I'm speaking in animation, that's my experience, but we have so many more jobs, let's say, in modeling characters, getting into the computer, modeling a character or sculpting them really in the computer, than we do at drawing characters, which many people want to do. So if you can do both, you're kind of opening your skill set up and your employability up. And again, you don't know where you're going to end up in college, so maybe there's an avenue for you if you enjoy the 3D side of design.
Oh, I love that. So many great nuggets of information there. And I love the idea of telling people it's okay to fail because at least you're trying something new and that shows that you're ready and willing and able to grow, which I think is fantastic. I know that there are other questions out there, but we just want to know like, what can students do to make their portfolio stronger? Because I know everyone probably has that sense of I need to be perfect and I can only present my absolute best works. But what are some tips that you could give to our audience today to help them build a stronger portfolio?
Well, I just so happen to have a slide where we're going to talk about um, different tips that we've put together. So I'll start here. It's good to have a range of rendered images and quick sketch images to show your abilities for time limitation and gesture versus detail. So some artists tend to really focus on the details and the rendering, which is great if that's your strength. But it'd be also great to say, hey, if you had a limitation of, say, a minute or 2 minutes, what type of drawing can you do? And vice versa. If you're good at really quick sketch, but you haven't really spent time doing the longer rendered poses, you may want to spend a little time, and you go back and forth. Um, Range of black and white and color if it's your strength. And again, it's one of those things where you want to try it. If you're really good at black and white and you don't spend too much time in color, it'd be good to start trying it and seeing where if you have any strengths there as well. Or vice versa, if you start in color, it's good to put your colored work into black and white, and you can do that pretty quickly in a digital world and see if it's still reading in the black and white. Okay, so you're really assessing the tones that are happening. Um, Reference. We talked a little bit about your styles and learning new styles. So we call that references, and it's great. And as I said, it's good for your own learning, but not necessarily would be included in your portfolio. But I'd say it's such a wonderful way, and that continues on. If you go to any of the major animation studios or larger companies, you'll see that they're always learning new things based on what has come before them. So oftentimes they'll do style guides based on artists, historical artists. So I've seen a style guide that merged together Gustav Klimt paintings with Celtic artists. And what does that look like when you take two artists and put them together? So the more you know about art history and the more you study it, the more original your own work can actually be, which is great. Um, and as I said, like showing how you think in a portfolio is really good. And the way to do that is by showing your sketchbooks. Hopefully, you're all keeping a sketchbook. And if you're not, start today. And it's basically every day. Just do a drawing, 2 drawings, 5 drawings. And again, quick sketch or renders, observational drawings versus drawings that are of your own imagination. A good variety of all that stuff would be great in a sketchbook, and it lets the portfolio reviewers see who you are through your sketchbook pages. And I think we talked about the variety of characters already, so that's great. Next slide. Um, I'd say quality over quantity. We started by saying how many pieces, 10 to 20 pieces. But if you start to look at your pieces and see like your strongest drawings or paintings or photos are like your best 12, and then 13 starts to get like not as good as the other 12, then maybe just keep 12 in, right? So because when these reviewers are going through it, they're going through it pretty fast, and they're going to make a judgment pretty quickly based on the work you show. So you just want to represent yourself with your strongest work. And sometimes you don't know what your strongest work is. So I always recommend to have a small group of people review your portfolio. And I'm not talking, your friends or your parents that always say it's really good. I'm talking about like people you trust, that know what they're talking about, in the art world. Maybe that's your friends and parents. I don't know. Maybe you're friends with really qualified people, but you just want to get as much review as possible. That way, other people can tell you how they respond to your work and where they feel is your strength. And that way, you're kind of getting a handle on how people are responding, and hopefully they align with a certain amount of pieces. I always say to start with something strong and end with something strong. It's good to have a flow. Um, and edit out any mistakes, like if there's um, a bad cropped photo, or the lighting's not so good, or there's a drawing to the side that you don't want people to see. It's okay to go in and do a little Photoshop just to edit out things, just to allow the reviewer to focus on certain drawings. Okay, next slide. Um, you might want to focus your attention, your portfolio. We talked about this a little bit already, but if you're a photographer and you also draw, it's okay to show both, but you might have a little bit more photography if that's your strength, or a little bit more drawing. And again, a general portfolio is fine. Like if you are really excited and passionate about several mediums, that's great. As long as the level is pretty comparable to each other. You don't want to put something in your portfolio just because you did it. Like I remember one portfolio when I was applying to college. I was applying to an animation school in Canada, and I put in a bunch of T-shirts because I did T-shirt design, like logo design. And now looking back at it, I'd say I can imagine the reviewer saying, why is he showing us too much graphic design? I think I did quite a few. When he wants to be in animation, do they really want to be in graphic design? And it's funny thinking about it now. I actually put the actual T-shirts in the portfolio. So this was the day where you carry around these massive portfolios. So they were probably like opening up these shirts and saying, is he giving us his laundry? I don't know.
I love it.
I was doing that. But anyway, yeah, it's okay to focus. It's okay to be general. Just know what your intention is there.
That's
I think
fantastic.
those are all my tips for now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Professor Mintz. Now is the time, everyone. If you have a question, please drop it into the Q&A so that we can get it answered before we lose the great professor and move to our next topic. But again, tons of nuggets of information here. Grab your sketchbook, stretch yourself, put forth at least 10 to 20 pieces, quality pieces across different mediums. Just try new things, guys. Come on. Be creative and do what you can to put your best foot forward. All right. It looks like we don't have any questions at this moment. So thank you so much, Professor Vince, for joining us today. All of your key tips are in this PowerPoint. So we're excited to give that to everyone at the end of our webinar. And thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. And I'm also including a reading list in case anyone wants to look at some books to help them along their journeys. Some of them are more animation focused. Again, that's just my experience. But you'll see that there's some other drawing, composition, painting books as well. So enjoy the reading, and good luck to everybody. Follow your heart, do what you really enjoy. Start there, and the rest will fall into place.
I love it. Words to live by. Thank you so much.